Mr. Devil here, Kenny Danisco, three-time Stanley Cup champion of the New Jersey Devils, and you're listening to the Uncle Puckers New Jersey Devils podcast with Chris, Dan, Bobby, and Tony, the Uncle Puckers. Let's go, Devils!
Well, we're moving on now to the side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Moving on to the side. We finally got a piece of the pie. Fish don't fry in the kitchen. Beans don't burn on.
Devils are moving on up. So, I mean, is there another team in the NFL in the NHL that players want to play with more right now than the Devils? I mean, this club and what they've been doing this offseason and last year, like even now, Eric Haula, locking him up 3 years at, 3.12 annual average, I think. Something like that. A very good contract for a very good player. Now we have him for 3 more years, and you look right down the middle of our lineup, and we have 4 really good centermen on every single line: Heischer, Hughes, Haula, and McLeod. And I know that they use Haula a lot in different places throughout the year, like Lindy does with everybody, but you guys have to admit that third line center position was the most productive position for him. I mean, that's where he belongs. And I love the fact that he wanted to come back. He said it, signed the deal. Now we have him for 3 more years, that veteran leadership, and really came on strong in the playoffs. Was a great playoff performer for us. And I am really happy with this move. Let's go real quick about Eric Haula. What do you guys think, Bob?
Yeah, I love the move too. He does so much for this club, way more than just the numbers would show, the leadership. You know, he was huge on the penalty kill, which he might even have a bigger role now if possibly someone like Sharon Govich leaves. All-around great player, very versatile. You know, you can put him on the wing, like you said. We keep teasing the fact that we're going to obviously get into our future lines, depending on what happens. And, I've got some spots for Haula as well, which means I knew all along he wasn't going anywhere. When he spoke to what
I think Lazar will definitely take Haula's spot. I can't see Haula being here. That's why they brought Lazar in. I don't think that was you, right?
Lazar came in for possibly taking, but then towards the end of the year when Haula turned it on, and then the way he spoke about wanting to be here, at that point I knew that he was staying, and I think it's a great deal. And I think Lazar's going to be in the lineup too, which is why we'll talk about where he's ultimately going to play. But yeah, great deal. The fans love him, the players love him, and I've learned to love him. So let's go.
All right, Dan.
Yeah, I think when we first took him on, we were all waiting for him to get started. But by the time the playoffs rolled around, he was definitely a great add to this team, and it's the right contract. It's not too long, it's not too expensive, where you feel like, oh, I'm going to pay everybody else. And I think it's a good move. Let's keep him on board. He's done good. Like you said, we don't have a ton of veteran leadership, and he offered some good stuff with that last year. So I'm happy about it, definitely. And I'm hoping it moves the needle on Timo Meier. Like every contract that's signed is kind of like, all right, let's get this one done, because we're all leading up to that big one.
Well, there was a report today. Fitzgerald said he actually spoke with Timo Meier today via phone, and basically said that Meier said, I want to be, again, reiterating, 8 years, that's where I want to be, and Fitzgerald's happy about it. So I was a little nervous that this thing hadn't gotten done yet, but right. I'm guessing, a contract of that magnitude probably is a little bit more difficult to get done as far as just the fine print and all the other bullshit that goes with it. So, I mean, hopefully it gets done real soon. But, Tone, Eric Haula.
I'm a Hall fan all year. I think I said that, even when he had a slow start, I know we kind of criticized him. I actually didn't, because I thought that he was kind of just basically hitting posts, and it was just had no luck. He had 14 goals last year. So I think this year's going to be a much better year for him. I think that he expressed his desire to be with this team. He was one of the first guys right off the bat saying, "Hey, man, I don't want to go anywhere." I like his play. He had a good playoffs. So, yeah, I'm an Eric Haula guy. I'm glad to see it happen. I think the price is right. I'm not surprised. So,
yeah, I'm super happy about it, too. I'm glad that these things are getting done quick. I was shocked at how fast it took Bratt to sign on the dotted line. Now Haula. And I know they're working on a extension for Michael McLeod, so I'm sure, and Ball, I know, needs an extension. Those I would assume would be just standard, basic. They get a little bit of a raise. I have no idea what kind of terms they're going to come to with those guys, but, they're important to the team. Fitzgerald will lock them up. I do want to, before we dive into the meat of today's show, I honestly think, guys, that within the next 3 to 4 weeks, there's going to be a whole lot of push and a whole lot of discussion about Connor Hellebuyck coming here. I really believe that, he's definitely getting traded. We know that. And I was thinking about this a lot. There is no better place for him to come than New Jersey for so many different reasons. First off, I know he wants Vasilevsky money. He wants $9.5 million a year. Me personally, I think he's worth it. I would say, he's one of the top 4 or 5 goalies in the world. I think he's worth $9 million. Now, if Fitzgerald and this organization can fit him in and still keep the vision and long-term vision that they have for this club and not derail that by taking on this huge contract, I think you absolutely have to do it. The teams I keep on hearing his name coming up with, first one is Pittsburgh. All right, now Pittsburgh, I can't see Hellebuyck wanting to go there when you look at their window with their big 3, right, with Letang and Malkin and Crosby. How many more years of elite play do these guys have? I mean, Crosby looks like he could play for another 20 years, but in reality, though, how much more time? Maybe 2-3 years of elite level? Is Connor Hellebuyck going to take his game somewhere to win a cup? Maybe for with only maybe a 2-year window. The other team that I keep on hearing is
window.
Detroit. It's a small window.
Yeah, they're not.
And the other team
kind of going down. They're not really on the way up as a team.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other team that I keep hearing about is Detroit. That one doesn't make a ton of sense to me either, for the simple fact that they're still a year or 2 away. So how much is he really going to move that needle to get that team into the playoffs? I don't think an elite goalie will do that for Detroit. The third team, go ahead, I'm sorry.
What about, is that maybe you were going to say, I was thinking about Carolina with him.
I haven't heard him with Carolina. The guy I've been hearing Carolina a little bit of chatter is Gibson over from Anaheim. But there's still the chance that they'll re-sign Freddie Anderson.
Right.
So the third team I keep hearing is LA. And, playing the Kings, that's sexy. You want to play in LA. It's a big market. I don't know how they are as far as salary cap. And I don't know how they are as far as assets and prospects. The Hockey News has them ranked 14 as far as their prospect pool. So they're right in the middle of the road. And that leads to the Devils. Connor Hellebuyck wants to play on a team to win a Stanley Cup. The Devils are a team that I think a goalie is one of the missing pieces that they need. As far as Winnipeg wants to still put a team on the ice. They don't want draft picks. They want to try and be competitive. So they want prospects. They want players. We're number 2 as far as the Hockey News has us ranked number 2 as far as prospect pool. We're right behind Minnesota. So it just, to me, makes all the sense in the world for Winnipeg, for Hellebuyck, for the Devils. Again, I know his salary is a sticking point, and I know that Tom Fitzgerald probably doesn't want to spend $9.5. Maybe, I don't know, maybe because you get him this year at like 6 and change, so maybe you can talk him into under 9. So my question is, guys, if this deal can get done for $9 million a year, are you on board?
No, I don't want him for $9 million. I mean, I like Connor Hellebuyck. I actually think we have an advantage because I do think he wants to play in New Jersey. That maybe we can get him below that because, I know it's right now. I mean, a goalie can last this long. He's 30 years old now. He'll be 31. I just think 8 years a little too long. Maybe.
Oh no, I'm not saying 8 years. I'm saying you sign Connor Hellebuyck to 5 to 6 years.
I don't think he wants that though. I was hearing. I think he wants a long term. I think he wants the 8.
Even if you signed him for 8 years, you could do a deal like you did with Jesper Bratt, where it was front load heavy, and that way, if you got to dump him off, 6-7 years into the contract, it's an easier contract for other teams to swallow. But so you're against it just for the money. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, because I think it's going to hold us up in some other areas coming, other players. And I think that, like I said, I think that we have a little bit of advantage with him because I have read several places that he has New Jersey is a place that he would like to play in, like I said. And,
right.
I think he realizes, and Fitzgerald, he always talks about this. If you want to win a championship, you have to have a little bit more money to spend. Everyone has to be able to buckle a little bit. If everyone's getting paid $9, it's going to be problems.
Well, it's a big difference. If the guy says he wants 9.5 and you get him for 8.8, 8.7, to me, that's a huge difference. You have him under 9. That's I would pay the guy at this point. Like I said, if it doesn't interfere with what the long-term plans are for this team, I pay him. He's just that fucking good. Dan, what do you think?
Boy, that's really tough for me to answer, knowing what I'm talking about, because I really don't know that money. If it's going to be prohibitive or not. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, because I don't think any of us really got a handle on exactly, where this is going to come down to dollars and cents for the whole team. But let's assume we can do it without having to go, oh, you know what? We're not going to have enough money in year 2, 3, 4 of his contract to sign everybody else. Then, yeah, I think you do make that move. I think he's going to be the right guy for this team, and I would definitely do it. The only thing is, you hear all these numbers that as we approach 10 million per player, I don't know how many of those contracts you can have. Does anybody have an idea and how much this would help or hurt us? I don't want to skimp on a goaltender. It's a core of your team. Don't get me wrong. I'm just wondering, we're looking at now chasing that Meyer contract and how much that's going to cost us. If money's no object, then I don't see why we wouldn't do it. The only thing that concerns me outside of the money is, we have some untapped potential with Schmid, but that's what you want.
They want
definitely. If we have to give him away for this deal, I like it even less. You know what I mean? But if we can hang on to Schmid and afford it, let's do it. I would like the idea of Schmid as Hellebuyck's backup. But, if it's going to hurt us, even not just next year, but 2, 3, 4 years down the road, if it's going to shorten that window that we have that could be a dynasty if the cards are played right, it's going to do that and throw away, maybe a great young goaltender in Schmid in the process. That I don't want to do. So I can't give you a really clear answer on that. I wish I could, because it depends on that, doesn't it? I don't know where we're at money-wise.
Well, you can look at it. We got a player in Jack Hughes who's a $10 million guy getting 8. We got a guy in Heischer that's probably most teams would pay over 8 for. We have him for 7 and change. Bratt even I think can probably get over 8 on the open market, and we have him for under that. So we do have a lot of reasonable contracts and guys locked up for term for not a lot of money. So I don't know what the future looks like, exactly like you said. I don't know what it's going to cost to sign Mercer next year. He'll probably be in the, depending on this year, 5 million range, around there. But I like I said, if Fitzgerald pulls the trigger on it, I'm all in with whatever Fitzgerald says. If he believes that this is going to, not only is this going to be one of the best goalies now, but we just bumped our window up even further to possibly contend for a Stanley Cup with him. Bob, what do you think?
Yeah, it's really tough. Again, how to answer this. All things being equal, if Fitzgerald has this mapped out to the point where they can afford it and they can field a team, because basically once we lock up Meyer, and I guess to some extent, McLeod and all that, we're pretty set. You know what I mean? Give or take a few pieces that are interchangeable. We still have a lot of young guys with potential. We're going to go over that, right? he is a better goalie, I guess, than what we have right now. So it's certainly something you want to look at. I also would certainly not want Schmid to go in it. I think that wouldn't happen. I'm hoping that wouldn't happen anyway. I would think Vanacek is somebody they probably want. But, overall, listen, it's starting to feel like it's what's going to happen. It's getting the legs like the Timo Meier deal, where us, other people in the league, they're just looking around and going, this just makes sense.
Who were the first ones talking about Connor Hellebuyck to the Devils? Was that the Uncle Puckers?
It was.
I believe it was.
I
think we were the first ones that brought that up.
That was before the playoffs, even, I believe.
That was.
I can't answer if I would take him. Your question was $9 million.
Right.
Do you take him? That I cannot answer, but I do know, like Tony alluded to, Tom Fitzgerald has a really good way of explaining to these players, listen, we got to save some crumbs for other spots. So he may want 9 and whatever. Maybe we do come in under. The bottom line is this ticks us up a notch for sure if we get him. And at this point now, I would actually not be surprised if we do, even if it means Schmid's in the deal.
I look at, his camp coming out saying he wants 9 to 9.5 million is what his camp is saying now. That's their starting point. You can negotiate. And if he comes here, comes here next year, you have a verbal agreement to lock him up long term. You got him for 6 and change. I mean, the guy is he's in the Vezina conversation every single year. He takes this team. I think with Connor Hellebuyck and this team, they're one of the maybe 2 or 3 favorites to win the Stanley Cup next year. I just, looking at how this team is built right now, and if they stay healthy and they pick up, again, I don't know what in free agency or trades they're looking for. I'm sure Fitzgerald has his eye on a couple of things come next week. We'll know a lot more, but if we get an extra piece or 2 through free agency and you can get Connor Hellebuyck in here, you lock up Meier, like you said, Bratt, Heischer, Hughes, I think they're the favorite to win the Eastern Conference.
Here's a question for you, and I don't think this has any I read something the other day about this. I don't know if it's relevant really, but so if it would cost you, who would you rather have, Hellebuyck or Meier next year? I was just reading this thing that what if it affects the other signing of the other one? So I mean, what would your opinion be on that? Like, what would you guys think? Would you? I think Meier's actually more important of a piece, in my opinion.
I see what you're saying. It's a tough call though, because you know what, we're really light on power forwards, and size, skilled guys, but we're also light on a goalie we can count on. So I mean, that's a tough call, dude. It really is.
I mean, I'm super excited to see Timo Meier starting the season with this team and seeing what he looks like with this team for an entire 82-game season. That's extremely exciting to me. If I had to pick one, gun to my head, I mean, this team did a whole lot of good stuff without Timo Meier on it and without Connor Hellebuyck, but I think going into the playoffs, if we don't have Meier, I still think we beat the Rangers. And maybe we beat Carolina with Hellebuyck. I think I'd probably go with the goalie. He's the most important position on the ice. He's the one that's going to play the most minutes, and I would probably go with Hellebuyck, but I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I got to agree with that. It's a tough call.
The Schmid problem. That's the big problem. We don't know what we have. We may have our guy in the future.
Sure.
We just don't.
But here's the thing. If we go into next season with Vanacek and Schmid, I think we all can agree. We know what we have with Vanacek, right? He's going to play very good for 3/4 of the season, and towards the end, his numbers are going to kind of come down, and come playoff time, you can't count on him. I think we're all kind of in agreement on that. That's kind of been his MO in his career. Schmid is a big unknown, but he's still very young. And I think putting him behind a guy like Hellebuyck, where you still give him 30 starts a year, or 25 starts a year, that could be great for his career. It could really do wonders for Schmid. I think throwing Schmid in, he could end up being the guy. I mean, absolutely. But the last thing I want to do is have a great regular season, go into the playoffs, and just have this position that's not as strong as the rest of the team cost us a playoff series. And I don't think you have that with Connor Hellebuyck. I think it gives you certainty back there with this team, with how good this team is, how well this team plays defense, how well this team can score. I just think having a guy back there where he's not going to have to face 40-plus shots a night like he does a lot of nights in Winnipeg. He's going to face 20 to 30 shots a night. I just think he would be doing – his numbers will be even better with New Jersey. That's how I feel. Bob, what do you think?
About his numbers being better with Jersey? Or just
would you rather have Meyer or Hellebuyck?
I think in my mind it would almost be better if we got him and then extended him for like 4 years at that crazy money, which kind of opens up the future quicker for a guy like Schmidt, who hopefully wouldn't be in the package. It got into my head. I don't know. Like, I really want to keep Meyer, and I really understand the value that Meyer is going to bring. And as far as Vanacek goes, we talk about his MO, but reality is he's had a very short career so far. Last year was his first real crack as a starter. He proved that in the regular season. Playoffs were a disaster for the number of goals that he put up per game. Even Fitzgerald will tell you that had a lot to do with our defense when we played in front of him. Yeah, okay, but still at least one or two of those a night were his fault. But I'm not ready to say that he's done, that Vanacek's done. I mean, mid-year we were all chanting VTech.
I do not. I don't mean to interrupt you real quick, but I do not think Vanacek is done. So let me just change the question. Do you think you can win a Stanley Cup with Vitek Vanacek?
I do, based on what I've seen from other teams winning. However, I think we have a much better chance of winning that cup with a goaltender like Hellebuyck. But again, it's just, unfortunately, I'm looking at the cap numbers right now, not in total. But I mean, at some point, you're running out of $9 million players. And if we're
also by the
next
time
year because of this, or
these are things that these are things that Fitzgerald's going to have to figure out.
In there, I would trust him because again, trades can happen too. I just came on the last show and said, look, I'm not bashing Palat anymore. I'm going to expect more from him, and I think he's going to be a much better Devil this year. But the reality is, that is a $6 million winger that we could probably do without if we could move. Even if we ate a little bit of that money. There's guys we can bring up, not that I don't like them, but in order to get a Hellebuyck in here, so if you're taking, basically if you're taking Vanacek's 3.4 out of here and Palat's $6 million out of here, at least for a year or two, right, filling it with Foots and Mercers, there's your $9 million, and nothing changes. The only thing that changes is now you got a better goalie. Then we're talking, but we just can't see all this happening yet.
Doesn't Palat have a no-trade clause?
I don't know.
I believe
I think he does.
So, Tony? Yeah.
I believe
yeah. So, I mean, look, regardless, like we said, if this is something that Fitzgerald believes is going to be the best thing for this team and we can lock up our core guys, I mean, really, if you look at the core guys, who's really left that isn't locked up long-term, other than Meyer, which we know is going to get done, and he's technically still on the team, it's just Mercer, right? I mean, he's really the main guy.
Yeah, I mean, assuming, let's say we sign Timo, right?
Right.
And Mercer, we really don't have to deal with for another year. So just leave that off the table for right now. Maybe the cap goes up and all that. So let's say we sign Meyer. Now we know this core that we have. If we don't bring back any of the, like the McLeods and whatever, like, sucks, but is it small price to pay for what you're talking about? Probably, right? Yeah. Because look at the guys we got locked up. We got 4 30, 40-goal scorers all locked up. Centers straight down the line. A defensive core that's young and only going to get better every year. So we could be up against the cap for the next 8 years. That's fine because we're probably going to be winning like crazy. And it's going to might lose a couple people, but like I said, I'm kind of with you, Chris. If we could fit him in, if the GM says we could fit him in,
he's just too good, right? I mean, he's just that freaking good.
Yeah.
And Tone, what were you just going to say?
And the cap is going to go up a little bit, coming up.
Yeah, next year $1 million, and they are talking like within the next 4 years or so, anywhere from like 4 or 5 million more. So that does open things up. And I mean, but you look at a team like Toronto, right, which is about
to make money.
Yeah, but you look at a team like Toronto, who is about to sign Austin Matthews to a ridiculous extension. They're talking like 13, 14 a year. I mean, that's where you really handcuff your fucking team. True. When you got to pay one dude $14 million out of an $82 million salary cap. That's a lot of freaking money. I think especially when you look at how we've locked up these young, great players like Hughes and Heischer, I think, man, maybe the long-term plan with the Devils was, going into last year, like, play meaningful hockey, maybe you get into the playoffs. This year would be a playoff experience. Next year, maybe a little bit further. The year after, you're really contending for a Stanley Cup. Like, 4 years from now, you're really pushing for a cup. You get Connor Hellebuyck in here with the team how this team popped last year, you're ready for a Stanley Cup 2 to 3 years earlier. Maybe it shortens our window a little bit, but it's going to open that window a lot quicker, is my point. Maybe we don't get 8 years of elite play and cup runs every year. Maybe we only get 6. I can live with that. Just one is all I want. Just one more. Until we win that, then I want another one.
Exactly.
But let's, and to go to show you, like, I have odds here from the Action Network. I couldn't get any odds. They don't have anything posted for Metropolitan, but we have Stanley Cup odds and Eastern Conference odds. So we'll go over those real quick. Who do you guys think is favorite right now to win the Stanley Cup
Vegas.
Next year?
Vegas.
Vegas is number 4. And there is 5 teams in front of them because there's 2 tied at second place and 3 tied at third place. So Vegas comes in at 4 at a plus 1,300. Anyone else want to take a shot at it?
How about the Stars? They get any love?
The Stars get 8th place at plus 1,600.
What's
They put
Florida?
Toronto up there, maybe?
Florida or Carolina?
Toronto, all right, so Toronto's number 2.
Yeah, I figured
They're
they were
tied. Here's, like, I don't understand how Toronto and Edmonton, they're tied at 2 at plus 1,000.
That's
The
the
favorites.
Canadian vote.
Yeah, maybe. Colorado is number 1. They're at plus 800 to win the Cup. Toronto and Edmonton are tied at second with plus 1,000. At plus 1,200, we have the Bruins, the Hurricanes, and the Devils, all tied at number 3. Number 4 is Vegas Knights at 13. Number 5 is the New York Rangers at 1,400. Number 6, tied three-way tie for number 6 is Florida, Tampa Bay, and Dallas, all at 1,600, plus 1,600. So we're right there with the best odds to win the Cup. Eastern Conference, to win the Eastern Conference, we have Toronto and Carolina are tied at number 1 with plus 600. The Bruins, the Panthers, and the Devils are tied at 2 at plus 650 to win the East. The Rangers come in at plus 700, the Lightning at plus 9, Buffalo and the Islanders coming in at plus 1,800.
What did Florida teach you this year? Florida teaches you.
I'm sorry.
Florida taught us this year that this all means you just never fucking know.
Sure.
At the end of the day.
But, we weren't even in this conversation this time last year. So that just goes to show you just how impressive this team was and how much the NHL doesn't think that this was a fluke. The people that make these odds, Vegas knows something, I always go back to, like, the Vikings and shit. They won 13 games last year, but everybody knew that was a fucking fluky 13 games. They weren't as good as that. Nobody's saying that about this team. They are as good as this record, as good as they were last year.
Well, I think that's true. Like, those things are not very good predictively, but they do show you the current level of respect for all these teams. I think some of it's misplaced with some of the... What's that?
I'm surprised where they have Vegas on there. It really surprises me.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that Dallas is as low as they are. I'm surprised that Rangers are as high as they are. I feel like they have a lot of problems that, they're just getting worse this year coming up than last year. So, I don't agree with it 100%, but and I'm sure there's some people who could look at it and go, oh, it's wrong with the Devils, but I tend to think it's pretty accurate. I mean, if anything, Devils fans are going to say, hey, wait, especially if the offseason moves go the way we want, they're poised to, be tied for even money to win the conference and perhaps the league. And, at some point, it almost is too close to call, so why do you bother? But it is interesting that last year, nobody would mention the Devils to do anything other than not make the playoffs again. And that's about it. Maybe they'll make the playoffs this year. That would have been the prop bet going into this season. Not not will they win their conference and will they win the cup, and that's pretty cool.
Problem. The same thing we kind of talk about. It's like it's not that they weren't totally disrespected last year, but everyone was saying, well, who they're bumping out. Remember, that was kind of the big thing. Yeah, they're getting better, but who they bumping out? And now people are going to say that, and they're going to look at us and say, well, you're not bumping out New Jersey. Like, they're going to make the playoffs. Right. So who's going to get in, right?
This was the first year that I slept through the draft lottery. When the balls, I was like, it doesn't, it doesn't matter.
They're not involved.
Yeah.
Toronto is surprising to me tied at second with plus 1,000. Like, why? Why is Toronto favorite to win the cup?
I don't know. Because they finally won a round. Now we got to give it to them. Now they know how to win.
They're due. They're due, Chris. It's been a long time.
I don't think that Vegas goes by that kind of logic, but there's got to be something that they see in Toronto that they're putting this line on it. I just don't see it with that team.
But Toronto did do a lot. Remember, they did make a lot of changes this year. I think they're a much better team than they have been the last few years. You're right. They're kind of ranked a little high, but I guess I'm not totally surprised because I think that was one of the busiest teams during the deadline.
Yeah, they picked up a lot of guys, but are they going to be able to keep Ryan O'Reilly? I doubt it. Are they going to be able to keep William?
There's a couple guys.
William Nylander? I doubt it. Who's their goalie? If
there's a logic in this, maybe they're looking at teams that were, caught by surprise by the Florida buzzsaw and giving them a pass. Like, that's not going to happen again. That's why Boston's up, and that's why Toronto's looking good on this list. Maybe that's the logic behind it all.
Now, will they become a team you're afraid to go to eventually as an age? Like, you're a free agent because the media there. It's kind of like being a Yankee right now, right? Like, everybody used to want to go to the Yankees. Now you're kind of.
You mean Toronto?
Yeah, with Toronto.
So Toronto's a huge pressure there, right?
Yeah,
a lot of guys. Yeah, but you're right. A lot of guys don't want to go there for that specific reason. The media is really, really brutal, and if you're not doing good, man, and from what I hear, like they're not even. There's just no quarter with these fuckers. They just go after you. They'll go after your family. They'll go after everything about you. Follow you around everywhere you go.
That's the thing too. Like everybody in this city, they know your face. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This is not true with hockey in most cities, especially in America. I would say most New York Rangers walking around the city won't get a second look. Most of the people who would say they're fans probably don't even know who these guys are.
Well, the expectations are so high, and that's why I compared them to the Yankees because, and for different reasons. Because Toronto's expectations are so high because they've lost for so long now, and in New York, obviously there was a bunch of championships you're expected to win every year. But I think if you're a free agent now and you say to yourself, man, the hype, it's so much. You're going in there and basically, if you don't win, you're kind of the joke of, and that's what it's turned into. It's kind of interesting because Toronto is a very, a historic organization.
On the opposite end, that is one of the things players have loved about New Jersey, man. Like, they can literally, you're living in the suburbs when you're in Jersey, no one's living in Newark, you know what I mean, or Hoboken maybe. But, they get to just kind of go about their lives, get recognized a little bit, but it's a charmed life.
Yeah, and that does go a long way. They want to raise families, they want to have fucking lives, they don't want to be under a microscope 24/7. Some guys love it, and they go to New York and to play for the Yankees or the Toronto or the Canadians or the Rangers. Those are all, Montreal's just as bad.
Oh yeah.
Or good, depending on where you're coming from. I know that
very true.
Gomer hated playing in Montreal. He wasn't good there, and they fucking were brutal. To the point that he couldn't even pick the newspaper up anymore. He just,
And I was going to mention.
Yeah, but it's funny that he wanted to go to New York, right?
Right, wanted to go there.
Yeah, exactly.
So
can I ask one more question on the Hellebuyck before we move on? I'm curious about the groups. Like, if you had the chance to, say, take them as in a most likely rental, you had to give up a decent package, but you have them for next year because you're going to go all in for next year. Let's say it does not include Schmid, though, right? That's the caveat. So it could have Holtz and a roster player, and who knows? Just in general, would you be willing to even entertain, hey, I'll take Hellebuyck for a year, lose Vanacek, and worry about it the year later, or is that too much for you guys?
Okay, so you're saying as a rental. Do you give up
in trade? He's just going to say he'll accept the trade.
Yeah, I'll finish my last year in New Jersey and then we'll talk.
Right.
All right. So, but we have to give up Holt, Sharangovich, and Vanacek.
At least, yes. Probably a pick in there too, but yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I'm not giving up Schmid to do that deal, but Vanacek is something I would seriously consider, especially if you think you can, maybe get him to sign longer term after the 1 year. Why not? If there's no shot at it, just a pure rental, and we know he's not sticking around after that, even less likely. But and I don't want to give up Schmidt for a 1 year rental. If I have to give up Schmidt, I'm not going to like it, no matter what. But I think it would have to be for a longer term deal than that.
Right, which is why I keep saying Schmidt was out of it. I agree. I think
Gotcha. Yeah.
You take for the year, and that's maybe you convince him during the year, and then you realize, hey, you know what? I can come down off my $9 million perch and be part of this team for a long time. So I would definitely. I think we're built for that.
Come within an ass hair of winning the cup, and just he says, you know what? I want another crack at it, or you win the cup.
Is this a likely scenario?
Says, I want two.
Do you think that he's gonna? No, he's probably gonna get what he wants, which is a longer term deal, right, from somebody.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he would be happy with going into unrestricted free agency next year and testing the market. I'm sure he would be okay with that.
Mind being on our team next year either.
I don't think that Fitzgerald would do that for a rental for 1 year. I could be wrong, but I don't know if he would. Not for a guy for 1 year.
That's the logical thing to do. But as a fan who wants a cup,
you know what that is?
You know what I mean?
You know what that is? That's a New York Ranger move.
It kind of is.
Okay, yeah.
That's a New York Ranger move. So, but then again, if I had to do it, if it was an option, I think I would take it.
See, I wouldn't.
If I wasn't going to affect the product on the ice this season, which you're not, because if you get rid of Holtz and you get rid of, let's say, Sharangovich and Vanacek, and you're replacing him with Connor Hellebuyck, I don't think you lose any production. What about you, Tone? What do you think?
I wouldn't do it for the rental because I think we have three players that you just mentioned with Holtz, Sharangovich even, and especially Schmidt, is that we have three guys.
Schmidt's not in the deal. Schmidt's not in the deal. We're not getting rid of Schmidt, no matter what.
You have three very good players you're giving up, and I think with the Holtz, I criticize Holtz because I have not been impressed so far, but we don't know what we have there still, and he's another one. I just think it's too much to give up for a rental. I
get what you're saying. Maybe we can get more in another deal with those three players, right? Yeah. Is that kind of what you're saying? They're worth more than just 1 year?
Yeah, I think for the 1 year thing. I'm already kind of worried about I'm pretty sure we're going to lock up Meyer, but still, I wish we would have had him, get him on a contract before. So, I don't know about the rental. I don't think I would do it.
I think with this team and him in there, I do think that with Hellebuyck, they have a legitimate shot to win a cup, and I think if that's the end game and you believe you could do it, do it.
Sure.
Do it.
And again,
because
our package was hypothetical. It could be Sharangovich, Vitek, and a pick. It doesn't have to be Holtz as well. Who knows what it would be.
I just think that you're not losing enough. You're not giving up so much that if you come short to winning a cup with Hellebuyck and he walks next year and goes signs with fucking, LA for $11 million a year, I don't think that sets us back at all.
Right. My point is we are so deep in the prospect pool, given where our parent organization is in talent, that we could afford to give up some of that. And, it sucks to kind of lose the prospects, but sometimes you just do take a gamble and go for it, especially if you're saying, hey, this doesn't mean we're not getting him. It just means he's got to like it here. I don't know.
It means we might, we might get him, we might not. You're flipping a coin, and I would be okay with a coin flip on that. I would. But do you guys, real quick before we jump into what the topic of today, do you guys, as far as any free agents that are going to be coming around July 1st, do you guys have any, not just for the Devils, but anybody you think is going to go anywhere, or no? Like, I think that Barbashev is going to leave Vegas. I really do. And I have a feeling he's going to end up with the Rangers.
I think he's going to wind up in Florida, actually.
I think the Rangers are going to make a big push for him. And I think they'll overpay for him.
Because that's what they do, right?
They do.
Yep. So, do you guys have anybody?
I've been so focused on our particular team and the fact that I don't see anybody else big coming in because of some very interesting discussions we just had.
Right.
No, I don't know yet, but I'll be following it more. I'll have a better answer next week or two.
And that's the thing. We haven't heard any hype at all. I mean, I know we're not supposed to talk about, they're not supposed to talk to each other until July 1st, but you know that they do. You know everybody's talking to everybody else, and people have a good idea come July 1st exactly where they're going to go and what their contracts are going to look like well before that. I'm just curious, since we haven't heard any buzz, I'm just wondering who Tom Fitzgerald has his eye on, because there's got to be people out there, even, maybe taking a flyer on an older defenseman just to get him in here or something like that. I mean, he's going to do something.
You'd have to think so, yeah. I'm sure definitely he's got. I'm going to be interested if we try to grab a pick. I don't know if we will though. A first round.
I thought that we might, but the more I keep looking and seeing, kind of like we talked about, the Connor Hellebuyck thing kind of gaining steam and stuff like that, I don't think he's going to press for a first-round pick. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. But I'm sure he's going to pull something. I'm sure we're going to grab. I told you I'm looking more into it this week, too. I'd like to grab someone like Gudis for this team for next year.
It's a great pickup.
Yeah,
it would be a great pickup. But again, what kind of money is he looking for? What kind of term is he looking for? That could be something. I think the other defenseman that we talked about was it Shea Weber, right? We talked a little bit about him, possibly. Another dude. And, I know I shit all over Ekman Larson when he got cut from Vancouver and they bought him out. But is he a guy that you can bring in for maybe $1 million, $1.5 million to have him kind of prove himself if he wants to get back into earning some big money? Is that a guy that maybe, if you believe he can turn it around and not be a piece of poop like he was the last few seasons? I'm just saying. I do. There's a couple of guys out there that Gudis would absolutely fucking love. I think that brings, if you had him and Timo Meier in the same team, Palat, some of these other physical guys, I just think you are going to send a message to other teams. And, Tone, you mentioned it the last show, guys are going to try and have their way with Bratt and Hughes and Heischer, the smaller guys. I mean, I go back to that Florida game in Florida when Matthew Tkachuk fucking mugged Nico Heischer. Fucking nobody did anything. Yep. He was in center ice. Nico was fucking down on all fours covering his face, and Matthew Tkachuk was beating on him like a fucking rented mule, and nobody did anything.
Yep. And
nobody even asked him nicely to please stop. That would have been better than what the fuck they did.
Looking back on it, as far as key games in a year that maybe are predictive of where your team's going and where it's fallen short. What a big game that was in retrospect, right? Like,
yeah,
you saw Florida taking the initiative, being rough and nasty, and you saw the Devils unable to respond with that. And that's become playoff time. Although they didn't match up against each other, this is where the Devils' weakness was, and that's where Florida's strength was. So,
and that's also something that if we don't fix that problem,
yes,
then with or without Connor Hellebuyck, you're not going to win a Stanley Cup.
I know. Honestly, I feel like it's a bigger problem than the goaltending. And
I agree.
I am. Don't get me wrong. I totally agree with you when you say it's come playoffs. Goaltending is the most important position, and you make a lot of good reasons why we should go the extra mile and get Hellebuyck. But I feel like I'm thinking about some of the games, and I think Bobby was talking about earlier about was Vanacek to blame or not? Fitzgerald, maybe some of the goals. I'm telling you this, Hellebuyck is not winning us a series the way we played against Carolina. He's not going to win that series. So I feel like the main problem we had was size, toughness, and defensive responsibility, defensive system. If we took care of those things, who's to say that we would, quote-unquote, need Hellebuyck? Now, this can be a confusing thing to say because then it sounds like, oh, you don't want Hellebuyck. No, I do. Because if you fix those other things, what Hellebuyck can do as a proven, winner, he could do a lot more for you than question marks. And so I think we do want to make that move, definitely. But when you rank our team's needs, it is probably not even second. I think, size, toughness, and then also like a better defensive system, which is going to be evolving with all the new players,
I don't think you're wrong at all. I mean, you're 100% right. We said it from, even on that 13-game win streak, we were discussing the size of this team and what was going to happen come playoff time. Everything they're doing now, what happens in the playoffs? Teams make sure that they do their best to eliminate your best players. The ice shrinks. What's going to happen? And we absolutely have to address those things. And that's another thing. Is he looking at somebody like a Max Domi or a Tyler Bertuzzi or somebody like that? If you think about, if you could possibly, like, if you're saying we have to go into, if we can get Gudas and Bertuzzi and have Meyer locked up, or Hellebuyck, I'm going to take those three guys and run it with Schmidt. Absolutely.
Right. I mean, if that's my choice. If I could also get Hellebuyck, of course I would. I'm not saying that we don't need Connor Hellebuyck no matter what. Absolutely
if
not.
Something happens and in November on opening night, Connor Hellebuyck is in net, Gudas is on our first pairing D, or even any pairing D, and Tyler Bertuzzi is playing on a line with Timo Meyer and Jack Hughes, I swear to fucking God, I will be doing backflips and just give Tom Fitzgerald the GM of the fucking century for that.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that friggin' team with all those guys on it?
That's basically the wish list with every single wish checked off there. I don't know if that's likely because you're asking a lot there, but
can't afford it.
I would love it.
No,
I mean,
we don't have that much room.
The thing is, we're not going to without boosting up the toughness. We are put it like this: Vegas would have annihilated us in the playoffs. I believe.
Yeah,
Florida probably would have got we would have had injuries like you wouldn't believe. I think that
you can actually compare apples to apples when it comes to what would Vegas have done to a not so physical team that had Connor Hellebuyck in net. They beat Winnipeg in 5 fucking games.
Exactly.
So
he could not save them.
He couldn't save him. He's a unbelievable goalie, but the physicality has got to be there, and it's it doesn't have to be an entire team. We're not the Broad Street Bullies of 1975. No.
We're not even saying that it changes the character of this team from being fast and scoring. Right. That's not what we're talking about at all. We're just talking about those guys who come up huge with size and toughness in a game where it matters, the playoff
and
time.
I think we have that in Timo Meyer right now. Yes. There's one piece, but we need more. It can't just be Timo.
The recipe is toughness. The recipe is toughness. The talent, obviously, the guys like Timo and them, goaltending, and then you got to be able to figure out the LTR how to with Tampa the way they did it in Vegas. You got to get a little money off the. You put someone on the injury.
You can only do that if somebody gets hurt.
But if you look at that though, you got Vegas, who they were over because of that. Tampa was the Kucherov and them, so we got to get one of those little deals going. This seems to be the recipe to winning the.
I heard a lot of people bitching about all that and stuff. Like, it's fucking stupid. Like, everybody voted on it. Everybody agreed. The players' union agreed. The owners agreed. It's just, if you go on long-term IR, that money becomes fucking dead money, and you can use it to go sign another player. It makes sense. Everybody bitches about it when it benefits the opposition, but nobody wants to get rid of it because they know eventually they might have to use it. So
right, and if you didn't have the injuries, you feel like, I didn't get to cash in my insurance policy. It sucks for me.
Right.
But look at Carolina.
These GMs are like, well, he may not play, and get the fuck out of here.
Man, look, Mark Stone may never fucking play again. For what this guy did this year. And he sacrificed his body after a major back surgery. They're saying that there's no way he's playing 82 games next year. He's going to be in and out of the lineup. So, this guy paid the ultimate price, He fucking, playing the way he did, it does take its toll.
How about Tkachuk? He was like the star of the playoffs, and he got crushed, basically, in that last series, and, rendered ineffectual, and I don't know if he's got long-term issues from this. I don't know.
Have you guys ever seen a Stanley Cup final that had more injuries to these guys? Like, just seeing two teams as beaten up as these two were? I don't remember.
It's kind of crazy because the NHL has made so many moves to make it smaller, faster.
Right.
They wanted to eliminate the clutching and grabbing. They wanted to even try to eliminate like head injury type hits, crushing hits. But yet somehow we got more injuries. I think there's an explanation there. I'm not quite sure about like why this style of play is leading to injuries that nobody foresaw.
You're right. But that would definitely be the devil's wish list. And since we're running out of time, let's hop on to something else real quick. So we know pretty much 95% chance that we are definitely going to have 2 open roster spots come next year. Tomas Tatar and Miles Wood aren't going to be here. I really doubt it. So, we'd love to fill one of those guys, one of those spots with Tyler Bertuzzi or Max Domi or somebody like that. But if we don't fill those spots, I just want to go over 4 dudes that I took from Utica that I want to discuss, and we've seen some of these guys. We haven't seen a lot of them. So unless you're watching Utica Comic games every night, we aren't really familiar. So just off a scouting report, the little bit that you guys know about them, who in this lineup, out of these 4 dudes, could you see pulling a Dawson Mercer and basically coming into training camp and making sure that there's no way in hell you're getting sent down? I mean, remember 2 years ago, that training camp, that spot was Holtz. It was a foregone conclusion that Holtz was taking that spot. And Dawson Mercer said, no, I don't think so. I'm just going to play my ass off and show you how good I can be. So to that. The first guy I want to start with is a guy that we've seen a bunch of times, and that's Alexander Holtz. So Alex Holtz, let's see, 6 foot, 192 pounds. This year with Utica, I only have the Utica stats because even though he played a lot up here, or at least he was riding the bench up here a lot, 14 games played, he had 6 goals, 5 assists for 11 points. He was a -5. I will read a little bit about his scouting report.
Chris, I can tell you with the Devils, he played 19 games, 3 goals, 1 assist.
Thanks, Tone. Alexander Holtz has been an important player on the international stage. He played on the Swedish teams at the Hinkska Gretzky Cup, scoring 2 goals and 7 points in 5 games, winning silver. Holtz played at the U17 World Hockey Challenge, scoring 4 goals, 8 points in 6 games, took home a bronze. He also appeared at the 2019 IIHF Under-18 World Champions, scored 4 goals, 7 points in 7 games, and they won the gold. So it says here, let me get to that. Holtz is a decent skater, but this is not a standout area of his game. His first few steps and his acceleration are merely decent. His top-end speed is also best described as adequate. Holtz is not slow, and he can keep up with the play, but he is not a speedster like many of the other top prospects in the draft. However, Holtz can still be elusive. His edge work and agility are very good, and he can use these to make quick cuts to avoid defenders. He is also strong on his skates, able to fight through checks, and can get to the front of the net, as well as win battles along the board. He's a pure sniper, says he has an outstanding wrist shot, lightning quick release. He also has an excellent slap shot and one-timer. Holtz even has a good backhand. He has quick hands to change the angle of his release before firing the puck, fooling goaltenders. He can also get in front of the net, scoring goals with his quick hands, excellent hand-eye coordination. He can get tips and bang in rebounds. He has all the tools necessary to score goals at the NHL level, make smart plays with and without the puck. He has a shoot-first mentality, but he also has the vision and passing skills to find open teammates and create scoring chances. He's able to control the puck down low, create space for his teammates, and get open. A little bit about his defensive game. His defensive game is a bit of a work in progress. He is willing to work hard in helping on the back check and playing physical. However, he needs to get stronger to really make an impact when playing against men. Holtz can also work on his positioning as he has a tendency to overcommit and chase the puck a bit. His work ethic is right there, so with good coaching, he can improve this aspect of his game. So that's pretty good scouting report on Alex Holtz. And, Bobby, I know you honestly believe wholeheartedly this guy has a place on this team, right?
Yes, I do. In fact, as it stands right now, I have him penciled into the lineup. I've got a couple guys coming up because that's just the way I feel this roster is going to go with the signings that they're doing. The only reason I'm not fully committing to him in his spot is because I do think it is very likely that the Devils could actually pursue Hellebuyck. And if they do, I believe Holtz will be one of the centerpieces of that deal. But as of right now, I do have him penciled in, and I have him penciled in for a big role in the top 6. where I think
Wow.
he would actually flourish. And, he had a weird year last year. Not too many games in the AHL. Games with us was in and out. I think he was hurt a little bit too because he didn't play many AHL games at all. The year before was his great AHL year, 51 points. However many games they play, like 55, 50-something games, whatever they do.
63.
I'm
I
not
think.
saying he's an elite next level guy. I'm saying, and I've said this many times on the show, there's a place for him, especially as this roster is constituted, with all those top guys we got in the top 6/9. He can flourish on a top line role with this team next year.
Any guys have any thoughts on Holtz?
I think he'll be traded. I really do. I really do.
Such a fucking, such a mush.
I
You
think
you'd
they're-
be
I think
Fuck you,
traded?
Bobby.
I think they're going
Bob just made this like really well thought out point on fucking Alex Holtz, and you just went, he'll be traded.
You know what it is, man?
Well,
He's
you're
a
not-
chip. He's a chip, right? Right now, someone really is thinking this guy. The Devils haven't tapped him the right way. I think this is a guy you can move and get a nice piece for him.
It's
We may get
definitely could be.
Hellebuyck for him.
Yeah, he could be part of the package. You guys don't disagree. I think even Bobby said that. It's like if there's a Hellebuyck deal, he's probably going to be part of it. And that's true. He's got value there. Look, his star was ascending, and he did run into maybe injury problems and other problems last year. You don't like to see a prospect fall off, and he did, So he started off great, though. Remember? First goal of the season.
Yeah.
That was great. And then after that,
He called it.
he did. And, is it possible he's making his team and doing well, like Bobby says? I think it's very possible. It totally is. First of all, like you said when you intro this whole thing, is we're kind of hoping we're watching Bertuzzi play and Holtz didn't even get a shot.
That's right.
So that there's that. But if it turns out that we don't get everything we wish for, I think he could take advantage of this shot. What are the odds? I honestly think it's like 50-50. So many of these guys, they have one rough year, they come back strong, so it's very possible. And a lot of guys, they have this promise and they never ever make it. And that could be the story of Holtz too. So we don't really know.
I've always called Alex Holtz like Pavel Zacha light. He just seems like a guy that should be so much better than he is. I like Bobby's optimism, and that's like your one guy on this list of four that like you're backing. Like I have that guy too, so I'll get to him.
I've got a guy
last,
I'm
though.
backing more.
Okay,
I'm
I'm
sure
under
it's
the
on
same
your
dude.
list. Yeah.
All right.
So
well,
number.
Yeah. I was going to say,
The
like
second guy.
Zacha was actually, if he turns out like Zacha, that's a pretty good way to go because Zacha had a good year at Boston after leaving.
Yes.
Absolutely.
He definitely needed to change the scenery.
Right.
The second guy, Tice Thompson, drafted in 2019 by New Jersey, round 4, 196th overall. This season in Utica, he played 56 games. He had 7 goals, 19 assists for 26 points. He was a -10. He's 6'1". He's 175 pounds. Been in the league now 3 years. This is a very short scouting report on him. It was tough to find a lot of stuff on him. It says his father, Brent, was an NHL defenseman, while his older brother, Tage, preceded him to the big league. So he owns excellent pedigree. Is a natural point producer at lower levels, owns a projectable frame, although not nearly as big as his siblings, but could stand to add more bulk and get physically stronger in order to maximize output at the highest level. Long-range potential, talented forward with some upside. So does Tice Thompson do anything for you guys?
He's
nothing,
a decent
huh?
player. For me, he's the guy that comes up and fills, like the 13th forward spot, maybe fills in a little bit here and there. He's a fine player. I constantly look at our roster, how it's constructed, where there's no room, and I can see him being that extra guy or not at all.
Yeah, I kind of feel the exact same way with him. The little bit that we've seen him didn't do anything to really impress me. So, yeah, he'll be that guy that fills in, or he'll be part of a Connor Hellebuyck deal. Do you guys have anything to add on Tice Thompson, or should we just move in? Or
I'll tell
why
you the
isn't he
truth.
his brother?
All these guys, I look at them through the lens of what we need on the team. and none of them are like checking those boxes. So I'm like, who cares? It's hopefully he fills in if we need him to, but he's not on the wish list for the type of player he is.
Like I said, I only have one guy on this list that I think fits the boxes, or at least has the potential to. But the third guy on the list is Graham Clark, 5'11", 172 pounds. I have one listed at 6 foot, one listed at 5'11", so he's probably 5'11". This year, he played 68 games down in Utica for 25 goals, 33 assists, 58 points, a plus 18. He was drafted in third round, 80th overall by the Devils. I'll just read a quick blurb and then go a little bit into his scouting report here. Ottawa 67's right winger Graham Clark played his minor league AAA with the Toronto Marlboros during the 2016-17 season, scored 82 goals and 54 assists in 51 games. So that's a lot of fucking goals. He combined for 67 goals in 35 regular season and playoff games in Bantam AAA with the Ottawa Senators. Graham is a goal scorer. He possesses one of the better shots in this year's class, is very accurate, has pace, and he seems to be able to get it off from anywhere at any time on the ice. He's a very good skater when at full stride and should improve as he gets stronger. He is very creative with the puck and has good offensive instincts as the puck always seems to find him on the ice. He's a smart offensive player that doesn't put himself in bad positions. That's his scouting report. What do you guys think of Graham Clark?
I like Graham Clark. I've been talking about him for a while, I think, and he's only 22 years old. I could definitely picture him on the roster next year, and he's funny. I think he'd be like one of those guys in 10 years when we talk about a Devil, a name on the cup, you're like, oh shit, Clark.
Wait, we got to do this for 10 years?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? No, this is a guy I think that he deserves it. And they brought him up last year, mid-season. I was surprised they didn't put him in. I mean, he just basically sat and watched, and but yeah, I think that we definitely see him in the lineup next year.
I mean, Graham Clark, to me, is a guy that could possibly fill Tomas Tatar's role. Kind of give you what Tatar gave you as far as production goes. I have not seen enough of Graham Clark to make any kind of actual prediction on him. I don't even think I've ever seen him play at all. So, I mean, he hasn't been up with this team, right? I mean, on the ice.
Just
never, right? Yeah. I don't think I've seen him play, but I mean, from his numbers are fucking ridiculous. Even that now in AAA is crazy. Dan, what about you?
I know most of what I know about him from Tony going on about him. Tony's been very hot on him, and I take that as a good thing. He does seem like the kind of guy who could be explosive. So if we got to bring somebody up and, say, can they be more than just serviceable? He looks like the best option that we've talked about so far. So that makes it an exciting thing to have him as part of the possibly part of the lineup. It's so much of a question mark. He hasn't really had a chance yet. You don't know if a player is going to shine or if they're just not going to be ready for the NHL. So we'll see. He does play a tougher nose game than a couple of the others we talked about, so that's cool. That's something we kind of need. I'm overall pretty positive on him. It sounds like it could work out. What a question mark!
I really want to see him play.
Yeah,
Bob. I really do. I haven't seen him, so I can't wait for preseason. Bob, what do you think about Graham Clark?
This guy's a little different because he's the guy that you can just go to the Utica page and say, oh, he led the team in points, he must be great. But he's also the guy you just don't hear that much about other than that scouting report. I do have him, depending on how the lineup shakes out, as my preferred kind of 13 forward over Tyce Thompson. Another one of those roles kind of in and out. He could be very serviceable, but overall I think I want another year out of him in the minors to see, because he just doubled his points output from the year before, which is a great progression, right? But doubling your points is not something you do year over year. So
we all know Chris Kreider's not a 56-goal scorer, but he did do it once. Right. I get your point.
And he's bigger, but he's not the biggest, and he's a right wing, which is pretty locked up with us. So for me, just give me another year, see what he does. Maybe a call up and
makes
be part
sense.
Of the team on and off.
All right. My guy, the guy that I think could possibly take Miles Wood's spot, is Nolan Foote. 6'3", 190 pounds. He was drafted by Tampa Bay, round 1, 27th overall. I'm trying to remember where was he involved with the Blake Coleman trade? It was right. Okay.
It was a big piece.
Played 55 games in Utica this year. 20 goals, 17 assists, plus 37. I'm sorry, 37 points plus 27. And we saw him a little bit this year. So his report, it says, another member of a famous hockey family, Nolan Foote has spent the last 3 seasons with the Kelowna Rockets. However, Foote had taken a different route through hockey world than the rest of his family. Unlike his brother, prospect Cal Foote, and his father Adam Foote, Nolan Foote's a forward. He's a huge goal scorer. His 36 goals were triple his previous season. He finished with 63 points in 66 games, but the Rockets didn't make the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. So, his scouting report. Skating. Foot skating has improved this season, but there's still a lot of work to do. While his top-end speed is above average, his first few steps and his acceleration still need a bit of work. This means he has some trouble in winning races for loose pucks. However, he is good at keeping up with the rush and getting in on the forecheck. His agility and edge work are decent for his size. He's a good power forward and good balance. Foot is strong on the puck, and he's very good on board battles and in front of the net. His offensive game is very good size and plays with a blend of skill and power. He has good stick handling and puck protection ability. His size helps him to protect the puck on the cycle and control the puck down low below the hash marks. He keeps the puck moving with smart passes to teammates and then moves to get himself open and take it back. He has an excellent wrist shot, a very quick release, so some other stuff. But his defensive game is very smart defensively. He reads to play well and gets into good positions. He knows how to support the defense down low and battle against the opponent's cycle. He is not afraid to block shots or to take a hit to make a play. He uses his size and long stick effectively, cutting down passing lanes and intercepting passes. He has even been an effective penalty killer for the Rockets. And that's basically it about Nolan Foote. Like I said, we've seen a little bit of this dude. I like his game. I like the physicality. I like the size. I think he's a guy, if you threw on a line with Michael McLeod, can definitely do some damage. I would like to see Adam Foote make this team this year, but that's my pick. What do you guys think?
Which Adam Foote, from the Colorado period?
Did I say Adam? Motherfucker. Nolan Foote.
Goddamn, we're old.
Shit.
We got off on the wrong foot, you know?
Oh, boy.
Oh, shit.
That was a dad joke. They really are showing our age. But his old man was a fucking hell of a player. He was on that Colorado team that beat us in 21.
Yep.
Bob, what do you think of Nolan Foote?
I think Nolan Foote becomes an NHLer this year and doesn't look back. He makes the team easily. We need everything about what this kid brings, his size, his toughness to play against. Me personally, I got a penciled in for a really big role on one of the top 2 lines, put a little meat on with Heischer and
Got
Pratt.
him in the top 6, huh?
I do. I think he's going to make it. Yeah, granted, it's rough, so he's going to move around a little bit. But I think as a starting lineup, that looks really good to me. Having Foote on the left with Heischer and Bratt, give them a little something, a little snarl on that line, because we've seen Heischer get pushed around, and Bratt's pretty tiny too. So I think he takes off this year. It's not just about the goals with this guy. He's a little more consistent than like Graham, who like doubled his output and looks really good. Foote's just a little more consistent. We don't need 30 goals out of him. We need his style of play on the right line. I think he makes the team and doesn't look back.
I like Nolan Foote a lot, and that physicality is exactly what this team needs. Maybe that's what Fitzgerald knows. Maybe he's planning on, or really hoping this dude comes into training camp and earns that spot, because I think he could be a valuable player on this team. Dan, what do you think?
He does sound like he fits our needs a lot better than the other guys, even better than Clark. So, I definitely will agree that of all the guys to come up, this one could help us out the most. And that's a good thing, because we may need that. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Tone, what do you think of Foote?
I actually think he'll make it out of camp, and he'll be on the starting roster next year.
He's not going to get traded?
No, I don't,
Okay,
no.
good.
He could be. I mean, Bobby had him packaged up earlier, right? He said that. It's possible.
Right. Don't move Nolan Foote. I think he's a kind of little the little bit that I've seen him, he's got like a David Clarkson, John Madden thing going. I dig that.
I think the more attractive piece to other people would be Holtz, and even if it was Foot, I think Fitzgerald could spin it to get Holtz.
Yeah,
and Holtz is always the name in it.
Every team thinks they can fix him, whatever his problems are. So every team is going to be like, I can have this guy scoring 100 points within 2 years, and maybe they can.
And Holtz
maybe
is that
the NHL.
But Foot is a devil. He plays like the devil we need. So I wouldn't get rid of Foot for anything.
I like that.
We need some youth in here because we got a lot of huge contracts. And what better than that guy?
Yeah.
Like, tell me a better guy to put on this team right now when you can't afford another $3 million player.
And just think, a whole nother conversation next week when fucking feeding frenzy begins and we see where people are ending up, what the NHL looks like after the trade deadline and free agency. Not the trade deadline, free agency. That's going to be a lot of fun. But you guys have anything else you want to chat about tonight?
Yeah, I think we definitely got to bring up, besides the submarine, we got to bring up the Hall of Fame. Right, we got to bring up a couple of those guys. I mean,
the Hall of Fame does fucking nothing for me. I'm just saying.
No, but it's good to see guys like Vernon get in there. I think, and I mean, I know we all hate the Rangers, but I think Lundqvist. I mean, it makes total sense to me that he's in there. I mean, obviously, we hope that
nobody gets like that. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem.
I was at the Garden recently, and I'm looking at Lundqvist got his jersey retired, never won a cup. But I don't know. Honestly, he's a great goaltender, but I think he's been so overrated because he played in New York.
You're looking at just what he's done which you're only looking at what he's done in the NHL, which I don't agree with you. I mean, he's amazing, but then the guy's won every tournament and gold medals and championships. And so, I mean, that's all taken into consideration. Well, I do think,
to be fair,
that
that's part
of it. Is probably one of the only ones that deserved it, maybe other than Ken Hitchcock and whoever the woman was. And I shouldn't say deserve it, but I think the excuse me, we talked about this. The selection process is so freaking flawed.
Right. Sure.
And it's such a it's a joke. Like even they were talking about it on XM today. I was hearing they were saying Pierre Turgeon's been up for it forever, and people just don't like Pierre Turgeon. That's why he hasn't been in. It really is that ridiculously petty that it's hard to take it seriously. But I mean, I think Lundqvist was a ridiculous goalie, and I think, I mean, Dan, you're the goalie of the group. I mean, you would know more.
I think that he was very good.
Nuanced shit than me.
He's very good, but look at the other goalies in his era, and he was not the best of them all. I mean, some of them are still playing and stuff, and some of them are on their way out. I just never felt like he was the very best. Maybe one season you could say.
He was the only goalie, Dan, and what was it? And he was the only goalie to record 30 wins in 11 seasons out of 12.
I mean, and the 12th was a canceled year.
I mean, won the Vezina. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I never was a fan.
I get it. I felt like he was way overrated, and given everything for winning virtually nothing. And the Olympic play, that's all great. That's fantastic. But there's year after year, there's Olympic play that there's guys who win that are
I'll give you that.
Not NHL players.
He's never won the big one, and
right.
The same with Shesterkin, where he's at right now. On a team that's looking like maybe they're not going to, and it's talk about blowing two of the best goalies of our generations that we've seen in our lifetime, and they're giving them nothing. We get Connor Hellebuyck, we're winning the cup.
Yeah, I overreacted to that too a little bit with the text with you guys. I'm over here with the King Nothing statement and all that, and then after digesting a little bit, I did realize, just what the guy did do, and I guess in today's world, and we already covered this on what it takes to get to the Hall of Fame. I guess in today's world, he makes a Hall of Fame, but for me, my bigger argument was that only strengthens Eliash's argument, because if he can get in with regular season numbers and whatever else he did on the international stage, then Elias is even a better candidate. And that's just where I'm going to end it right there.
I'm curious when there's going to be more of an uproar about Elias. It's like every year it feels like there's one player that they end up just everybody gets behind for. So like this year was Alex McGillney, you know, and you know he didn't get in like maybe another 5-10 years. Somebody who actually has a fucking say in this mentions Elias's name and it gets a little bit of traction, or is he just forgotten?
Devil.
I mean,
He's
if
a
you
devil. So I don't know if
you
he's ever going to
compare
get
his numbers to a lot of dudes that are in, and they are on par, if not better than. And I know, and he played a super long time. I think the best comparison that you can argue Elias against is Martin St. Louis. He has better numbers and around this same length of time as far as a career goes. 2 cups to 1, and I know they say it doesn't matter, but it fucking matters.
Oh, it matters.
Why? How can you put one in and not the other? That's
Alfredsson's the other one. Now he pales in comparison just by a little bit in points to Alfredsson, but he's got the 2 cups and he led a defensive team in every offensive category for 20 freaking years. Yeah, it's just. I think he's going to get in, so I'm not even that worried about it. I think it might take several years to be on the ballot, but people are going to realize that.
Dan's just shaking his head.
I'm just thinking of my last time in Toronto.
In.
The Devils have no representation in the Toronto, NHL Hall of Fame. We were talking about this once before, and
In
here's the other
30
thing.
years they will, Dan. In 30 years they'll have a fucking hell of a wing.
The
We'll be
media who
serious.
votes on this, you might be right. Yeah, when they finally turn that corner in the media's eyes, and it's going to take somebody like Hughes to do it, and the whole organization to market him that way. But because the Devils were not marketed that way, they didn't like Elias doing what he did because it kind of was against the preconceived notion of what they had for the Devils. Devils are interchangeable players. Devils have no real scoring. Devils are defense, trapping, that's it. That's what people will tell you about the Devils. That's what even like hockey media wants to paint the Devils as, especially this new era, before this new era of Devils. It just wasn't true. We've talked about this before. Yeah, we know that. They scored, a ton, and especially with Elias, he was their best scorer on cup-winning teams. And, it's unfortunate that they got these ideas, about what the Devil is, and because he doesn't fit with that, they don't even want to acknowledge it or pretend like he doesn't exist, and that does piss me off. Especially, and I think that makes me more aggravated when somebody like Lundqvist, who didn't win it, okay, he was great, don't get me wrong, but Lundqvist, on a team that was way more obscure than New York, might not have got in, even with consistency that he had over the years.
I think unless there's like a public thing to get behind Elias that gains steam, the only time people are even going to talk about him is when like these Devils now are possibly maybe getting into the Hall of Fame, and Jack is in, and Nico's in, and somebody mentions about the great Devils scorer Patrick Elias and gets out of that mindset, because it'll take this team right now to completely shatter that whole mindset that everybody does have about the Devils.
We got to start a rebranding. We're going to be the Patrick Puckers next year.
There you go. I like that. I don't know what that means.
Well, I'm not sure either. We should go.
All right. On that note, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
The Patrick Puckers. Thank you so much for checking us out. Please like us on Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star review. It goes a long way with helping the podcast. Check us out on Amazon, wherever the hell you get a fucking podcast. Drop us a line, unclepuckers@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys, hear what you think about so far this offseason, where you think it's going to go, and what's going to be happening at the trade deadline. I keep on fucking saying the trade deadline. The free agency. And for Tony, Bobby, Dan, I'm Chris. We're the Uncle Puckers, or the Uncle Patricks, or the Patrick Uncles. We'll see you when we see you.
Fuck is out.
I like Uncle Patrick's.
Uncle Patrick's out.
Uncle Patrick.
Uncle Patrick.
There you go. Patrick Fuckers.
It's over, Johnny. It's over.
It's over.